Welcome to the Raj Kotecha Show, #1 podcast in Dubai. And in today's episode, we are covering so much. We finally broke the seal. We opened the can of worms that is Kanye West this week on Drink Champs and so much more. We didn't talk about it last week. We don't want to put fuel on that fire, but we broke it down from a media perspective and from the perspective of what it could mean long-term for one of the greatest hip-hop acts and music acts in the world. Could be the one that leaves a long-term scar. You'll find out more when we discuss it. On top of that, we talk about the return of the landlord to Instagram. Giggs is back. He's done one of his rants. You just couldn't ask for a better one. We break it down and we break down the role of brands working in culture and working with music artists. On top of that, James Corden, the TV star in the US, originally from the UK, has been called a little cretin of a man or a small cretin of a man, something like that. Who called him that and why? We'll break that down. Somebody in New York, and it had something to do with food. So there's a whole bunch to see there. On top of that, Drake, is he losing money gambling? Is he winning money gambling? There's been a bunch of posts this week. We cover that. And then on top of that, some cool content recommendations. The third in a series of boxing movies has got my co-host excited. And the third in a series of hip hop albums from one of the greatest rappers of all time has got all of us excited as well as a massive NBA star coming over here to the UAE and doing an interview with one of our friends. Joining us, as always, is Vic. But Vic, unfortunately, had to leave because he had to go pick up his son. And so we are back in classic iOS 1 mode. The original ALGO gang is here. And joining me, as always, is... we call him Tom Hanks from Philadelphia. You'll find out why on the podcast. Welcome to the show, Alex. What's going on?
What's up? That was a good introduction. I rate it.
Yeah. You've got. You're also going to reveal. Alex reveals a lot about himself on this episode, including where he's living and his holiday plans. He basically he doesn't have the same fear in his heart of a young rapper. So if you want to find out everything about Alex, including his blood type, his list of fears, and the PIN number to his bank account, then you'll figure that out on this episode. And yeah, how do you feel that Vic's not here? I feel bad, but I also feel like a sense of nostalgia because it's how ALGO started.
Yeah, no, honestly, I feel really good.
It is weird. It is weird when it's only me and you on the mic because
that
was the inception of something really special.
Yeah. I get you though. It's different. It'll never. I don't know. There's just something different about it.
I know. I wish I'd not hung up after we record this episode, the one that you're about to hear, but it's been a day of calamity for me as well. I was just telling the guys that before I jumped on this podcast, 2 hours prior, I'd grilled some fish in the oven on gas mark 200. And I say that because after I'd taken the fish out and we'd had it for lunch, I left the oven on for 2 hours on gas mark 200. And I actually opened the cupboard where the dial is that shows how much gas I've used. And that is going to really hurt my bank account, just burning gas at 200 degrees for 2 hours for no reason.
Just wait till the end of the month.
I know. It's basically just put a massive hole in my bank account. And it's probably put a huge hole in the ozone layer as well, because, I've just contributed to climate change in a terrible way. So if you leave the house here in the Middle East and your skin burns, it's because of something I did with my oven. I apologize in advance. Please forgive us. And also, whilst you're doing us a bunch of favors like forgiving us, head over to that 5-star rating on Spotify. Give us a 5-star rating. 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcast would also be incredible. And YouTube gang, I see those numbers going up. I really appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button, leave us a comment, and also give us a like. But more importantly than anything, share this with somebody who needs to see it. Alex, you ready to rock?
Ready to rock.
Run that audio. All right, we're back. We're now officially consistent. We managed to pull this podcast off last week and the week before, as far as I know. And we've got a bunch of stories to get into. Today, we're not going to waste any time. We're just going to do a very quick out and about in Dubai because Vic was asking me before, have I been out and about in Dubai? And I haven't. I only went to Time Out Market on Saturday. I think for once, Vic has had a bigger weekend than I have last weekend.
No, I didn't. I can't even remember what I did on the weekend. I didn't do much. It was mostly family stuff. So we didn't do a lot. It wasn't like I was crazy out and about. But we were just doing stuff with the family, really, me, Ine, and Shayla.
Didn't you hit any restaurants? You hit a restaurant this week, didn't you? You went to our friend, I think, what's his name? The manager at that Jamaican joint, Reef? I think his name's Reef. Didn't you go to that Jamaican spot in...
Vista Mare.
Vista Mare, yeah. How was it?
Yo, I forgot to tell you, we got so busy. So I went there. We had some friends come in from out of town. We met them in Mauritius when we went on holiday.
Yeah.
So it's a kid who made friends with Ine and his mum.
Yeah.
So we met them for dinner. We wanted to go to the Jamaican spot in Vista May in the Palm. Shut.
What?
Yeah, it was closed. And the other joint, you know, the one at the other end that we went for brunch with you, Alex, and
Yeah.
Beach bar and Breeze Beach Bar.
That was shut as well.
Really?
The one next to Rumba or whatever it's called.
Are we talking about shut or just not open?
I don't know, not open. It just looked shut, like looked boarded almost.
Really?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I don't know, because that's a mad one. Because if those two, because that Breeze Bar was always busy. It's not like they never had any traffic. So we end up going to the Greek restaurant Mer, which is next to, like, you know, whatever it is. It's just down the road, just like two spots down from the Jamaican place. It was fine. We sat on the beach. It's a bit pricey. The menu selection isn't amazing. They brought out like, I had a moussaka, but it was like in puff pastry, and it was like 2 pieces of puff pastry that weren't that big. But it tasted phenomenal, but it just didn't do anything for the appetite at all. Not at all. Like, it was really tasty. It was fine. It was good, but it was just nice to catch up, you know? That's it. But other than that, man, it's just been like family stuff. Ine started football again. Yeah, it's just like, just doing a lot of that kind of stuff this weekend.
What night did you go to La Vista Mare?
Last night.
Okay, so that's weird.
Tuesday night.
Yeah, Tuesday night.
If you said to me a Monday night, I'd be like, there are some outlets that don't trade on a Monday after a busy weekend, but a Tuesday night for 2 outlets to be closed on Vista Mare. I'm not saying this is the case, but I hope this isn't an early indicator of like businesses going under.
Well,
I really hope.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking, because I think the same thing. Monday, I was like, oh, wait a minute, Monday? No, it's Tuesday. But here it's rare for Mondays for outlets to be shut. It happens in other parts of the world. It's just rarer here. It does happen, but not as much. So I was like, oh, Monday, but nah, it's not. It's Tuesday. So those 2 places. I remember a while ago I went to Vista Mare, and that Jamaican place was shut as well. This was like maybe about 2 months ago, or maybe within that time, and it was shut. And I just didn't pay no mind. And then last night I was like, oh, this is the second time I realized that it's shut. So I hope not. But those 2 places were never quiet on that spot. In fact, those 2 are like the busier ones on the strip.
We have to find out. So for anybody who's not been to Dubai, if you go to the Palm, which is that reclaimed land out in the ocean that's in the shape of a palm, there's a really cool spot as you head up the Palm, split out to the right-hand side, and there's a place called Vista Mare, which is just this cool kind of like waterside strip of really nice restaurants. The guys that own Bombay Bungalow have got a restaurant there, a fish restaurant. Incredible. First one as you walk in on the left. But the thing about that Breeze Bar and Grill, or whatever it's called, is that it's a massive unit. The indoor capacity is massive. The outdoor capacity is massive. They've got a gaming area. And then they've also got a fresh goods counter, in the sense that, you know, there's like, you know, fish and seafood and all those other bits and pieces. So it must have a high OpEx to it to be able to cover all that space. Oh, well, let's see. We have to keep an eye on that. Let's keep an eye on, see if there's any other restaurants closing. It doesn't seem to be any reason to be any restaurants closing in Dubai right now. It's booming out here. But other than that, nothing else on your side to report?
Nah, nothing special to report. It was a fairly kind of chilled family weekend.
You didn't go anywhere on the weekend to like hit any spots?
Do you know what? I probably did, and I can't remember, but nothing that I can like remember enough to go, yeah, this was, I think Saturday night we stayed in. We were at home.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we had a bit of a chilled one on Saturday night.
What about you, Alex? Out and about in Amsterdam?
Yeah, I've been pretty chill. Mostly, last Wednesday, I think the day we recorded the podcast that night. So right now I'm staying at a place called the Student Hotel, and it's in a bunch of different cities around the world, and they just rebranded to the Social Hub. Oh. So they threw a huge like rebranding party, I guess. Nice. Free drinks and food, 4:30 to 8:30. It's pretty nice. It was cool.
When was that?
That was Wednesday night after we recorded the podcast.
And where'd you go last night? Because right now you look like Tom Hanks in Philadelphia.
So last night, actually, during this whole, starting today, There's
I thought I killed it with Lurch's nephew, but that was the one. That was the one.
But yeah, so there's an event here called happening called Amsterdam Dance Events, and from today till Sunday, there's probably over, I'd say, 25 different events in different venues in Amsterdam.
Nice.
And so yeah, yesterday they were just doing a like kickstart night, to like start the events. So it was pretty nice. It was pretty chill. A lot of big DJs and things coming here. So it'll be interesting. Yeah.
So what is the social hub now? Is it changing its offering, or is it going to be more like a co-working space, or that kind of thing?
I mean, so at least for like, they haven't said their plans for the future, but how I see it is that there's already co-working spaces here that you can rent out, and like you're like, if I go downstairs, I'm always seeing people working and things, and they hold events, just like they have rooms like the Rove does for like that we used to use for the 4Ps and things like that. And I just think they were trying to get the name student out of like just the company, because that like limits them on its own, and I'm sure they have much bigger plans than that. So yeah,
that's really interesting, getting the name student out. I think it could be the case that like the line between like a student, a young entrepreneur, a side hustler, like it all blends. Like Alex isn't strictly a student like how we were predominantly students when we were at university. Yeah, well, everyone was hustling, but like I think the idea of being in a place where it's like I do go to uni and I do work from here and I do have a podcast and an Amazon business and all that. So yeah, I can see that being a trend as to why you'd want to drop it. Also interesting that Alex just gave away his address, and all he needs to now give away is his room number, his list of fears, and what time he uses the bathroom.
Yeah, you can have my floor. You can't access it without
really
a key card. So yeah, I'm chilling.
All right. Yeah. Well, we covered that when we were talking about PNB Rock and Pop Smoke, and now and now along comes Alex. Cool. I don't think I did anything at all. I mean, since last Thursday, this weekend. Oh, big shout out. God, Vic forgot, man. We'll forgive him because he's tired. We also met our friend who's just texted me, Eric Fulweiler, because last week was Jitex. And so we had a great catch up with him. Check out We Are Rival on online. He is the former managing director of VaynerMedia in the UK. Worked with Gary Vaynerchuk, super smart guy. Also worked with some of our other friends, including Sean, who's been on the podcast in one of the early episodes. So really, really good to catch up with him. He said some crazy stuff in our meeting. And I'm saying this because it's generally smart and not because it's confidential. But he said that we were talking about like the evolution of our business and how we're going into more consulting. And he goes, being in consulting is great because you're judged against Boston Consulting Group, Bain and McKinsey, as opposed to other agencies. And I'm like, you're right, because when it comes to being a creative agency, creativity is subjective, whereas coming up with good ideas and solutions at some level is more objective, because you can say to somebody, here's my idea. If you've got a better one, present it. And it has to be objectively better for it to get the backing. Whereas there doesn't need to be objectively better in creative. You can submit an asset and someone will be like, can we make the logo bigger? Or can we make the font smaller? And it's not like it doesn't have the same level of objectivity. So I think for us, as we transform it into a consultancy, that was a really, really dope gem that you dropped. And often it's the simple one. So big up to Eric. It was really nice to hang out with him, and shout out to his whole family as well, who I know who are just the nicest people. So yeah, that's where we were.
Just a quick point on that. It's interesting that you say that, because we've spoken about this now a few times. It just occurred to me that the objectivity comes from it being tied in closer to a strategic goal or a problem. So something fixed and something tangible within a business. So although it's coming up with ideas and solutions which have a level of subjectivity around them, because they're tied into something that's tangible within a business, that's where you can apply objectivity to it. And that's where it becomes a bit less open to like criticism or whatever it might be. That's what I think.
And that night as well, we saw our friend Nana. Good friend Nana. Happy birthday to you. It was great to see you this week. Big up to him. Saw him outside when I was dropping the car off of valet, and he was just moving and grooving around with the who's who of the alcohol industry. And he's actually in London this week as
in-
well.
yeah,
Link-
he's in
linking up with
London.
linking up with Jay, your brother, Vic's brother, and our boy Haps, who Vic and I were the resident DJ at his football stadium for many years.
Yeah.
So that's that. Okay, cool. I'll come back in and segue myself. No problem. All right, good stuff. So let's get into today's stories then. That's it was a fairly light week compared to last week, where we basically did like 2 episodes back to back of Lord of the Rings, just of being out and about in Dubai. Let me pull up our stories.
Yeah.
First one I want to start with is, and I think we can probably afford to go a little bit longer on this one, is the kind of week that Kanye's had. Now, we chose last week not to go into Kanye West. We just thought it was a moment in time, and it wasn't something that as a media platform, we wanted to potentially directly or indirectly draw attention to it, because it wasn't particularly useful, progressive conversation. And since then, he's doubled down on some of his statements that could be isolating or damaging or disrespectful to the Jewish community. And because he went on to Drink Champs, and because he's kind of like used a platform that's very, very important to hip hop culture, which we're all part of, we thought it might be worth like expanding on it. So quick survey around the room. Who's seen what from the Drink Champs episode that Kanye West did with Noriega and our friend DJ EFN, which has since been taken down from the official platform channels like YouTube and Revolt TV?
I haven't seen the whole episode. I didn't get to see it before it went down. I think there is a version going around. I've seen a lot of clips. I've seen a lot of post Drink Champs interviews from Nori and from Kanye. And I have seen the intro to the video of that episode, where they do like the little pre-roll, which is all the highlights of the episode. So that's where I am in terms of seeing that. Alex, have you seen it?
No, I didn't get to see the full episode before it got taken down either, but same with you. I've seen a bunch of clips online, and just everything, like all the like big parts, I'd say, were online.
Now,
go ahead.
What I would say about seeing the clips, and the reason I asked you, Alex, just to get some kind of framing, is that you always worry about just watching clips because they can be taken out of context. You know, you don't know what was said before and after, and that moment can just be fully open to interpretation. Now, with these particular ones, there is enough conversation around the whole episode for you not to take it out of context. And there's also enough context in Kanye's previous comments to be able to go, okay, I can make a fair judgment on what he's saying and not take it out of context.
I think what happened was quite the opposite. I think it was dangerous, because here's what talking to people has showed me, and it came up on our editorial team's group chat as well, which is that there was a knee-jerk reaction. They were repulsed by the fact that it was over 3 hours. So what happens is, when you see a video and it's over 3 hours, you think, I don't have time for this. So then what happens is you end up checking out the clips, and the clips just are whatever people have chosen to clip out, and people are going to clip out the most sensational part. So actually what you don't get is, you don't get a fair and balanced view of the long form. Now, I'm not saying what was said on the long form is fair and balanced. I'm saying you don't get to consume all of the context of the podcast if you make your judgments just based on the clips. Now, I've seen the clips and I've seen the full length podcast, and quite honestly, both are terrible. I would actually argue that if you watch the full length podcast, it's more damaging than even just seeing a series of clips, because there are times where he pushes his talking points even at places where they shouldn't naturally exist. He just seems so hell-bent on making those points. So it is quite damaging. And I think for the first time ever, we're in a situation where we're like, yeah, this to Kanye is his kind of like COVID moment where there's no coming back from this. I mean, to me, I felt like it was all systems go for Kanye and things were good, as much as he'd had crazy antics. When he dropped Donda, I was like, you know what, worst comes to worst, this dude can really put out some great records. And Donda had some phenomenal records on it. And it kind of did what great music from Kanye always does, which is it levels the playing field and gives him one more go round. But on this go round, it's been quite bad. What we haven't seen is people coming to his defense because maybe they don't want to defend him in this kind of situation. What we have also seen is that typically more pragmatic or contrarian people like Talib Kweli have openly started posting things that are wrong about this whole Kanye thing. What we've also seen jump in the mix, and me and you watched this last night, Vic, was someone like Academics directly going at Nori saying like, you published it, you should have not took it down. On top of that, we've seen Noriega go onto two of the biggest platforms in culture, Breakfast Club with Charlemagne and friends, and also go on to Hot 97 and actually talk to Rosenberg, who is Jewish himself. Now, I feel like they took it easy on Nori. I felt like, on balance, that platform should have not been the platform that he was invited onto. There are people now saying that Nori was blindsided and that although he knows that his platform is a rickety platform, he still wasn't expecting Kanye to go as crazy as he did. So there's belief in that. I think on balance, that show knows what that show is, and bringing him on that is unstable. I said to Sal this morning when we're on our walk, I was like, if you're going to release 10,000 fireworks, you have to look at the literal platform. You're better to do it in the middle of the desert than you are to do it on a yacht coming down the river here in Business Bay, because at some point, those fireworks are going to go crazy and start hitting buildings. And combine that with what I said before, which is that we talk about this on the 4 P's of content. We're like, the price tag of a video is time. So people looked at that video and thought, this is too expensive. At 3 hours, I can't pay, instead of paying with money, paying with minutes, I can't pay that many minutes to consume this. So what they did is they went and got the snack versions. And so now we've got this weird, convoluted population of people. Some have seen the clips, some have seen the long form, and both collectively and individually have probably made a long-term damage on Kanye's career. From a young person's point of view, though, Alex, who's, Kanye's been famous your whole life, basically, right?
Yeah.
More than your whole life.
I think he even, 2003 was when he actually started his like major career, right?
Which is when you were born, right?
Which the year I was born. So the year I was born is when his career started.
Kanye's been that guy since you were born. Yeah. So what are your thoughts now?
I don't know. I just think like what he did was wrong, and like I think so many people gave him so much leniency on what he said in the past that like I think it was bound for him to say something at some point where people were going to be like, all right, this is enough. Like what do we do now, But like, I don't know. Like, I like, for me, for example, I'm not going to like stop listening to his music and like, because of what he said, Like, do my views change on him? Maybe a little bit. I'd say definitely a little bit, just because like hearing anybody saying that isn't right. But yeah, I haven't really talked to it much about it much with other people my age either. So I don't know what like my friends and people think.
Would you stop playing his music, Vic?
Would I stop playing his music?
Yeah, if you had a gig this weekend, for example.
I think fair. I think maybe like right now, like if I had a gig, I wouldn't be playing, but like I'm not gonna like stop listening to his music forever because of what he did.
Right.
I don't think I'll stop listening to his music. As of right now, I don't think I would be compelled. I'd probably think twice before playing one of his records. And there is a few choice records that I play in my sets of his, but I'd probably think twice, just to answer your question directly. Where I stand on it, and Raj, you and I have spoken about it at some length in the last 24 hours, the snack size thing is a really important point. But what I do think is that if that show wasn't taken down, if that episode of Drink Champs wasn't taken down, then more people have watched it and more people would have got the full context. But it was taken down fairly quickly, right? After like a day, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I think more people would have consumed it and more context. But I guess my point about not taking out of context, not, the snippets and the micros, the reason that you can have context is because it's not the only time. You see on a lot of podcasts where some snippet is taken, like Joe Rogan's a perfect example. He'll say something that's thrown out and then interpreted however it is. But Kanye's like saying his point, doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down, and not letting up. So even if you just hear the stack version, you've probably heard a variation of it in the past. And that's what I mean by the kind of context where the context has already been given to you based on his previous actions. Where I think he's going is this. He's now gone way too far to the wrong side. Before, he was able to put out music, and saying that it's a leveler is probably the best way of putting it because it gives him another go round. But he's gone so far the other way now that he's alienating some huge communities, So obviously, we've spoken about his comments about Jewish people, the music community, the financial community, big corporates. And then he's like picking on like the media and then individuals and then kind of just putting it all into a mix. What I think he's doing, and I think he's consciously, knowingly doing what he's doing and saying what he's saying. I don't think he doesn't know what he's doing. He's doing it because he was loved, and he'll say something somewhat controversial, but it's not too crazy, not too like damaging. And then he'll go, right, I'll make some more music, level the playing field, and I'll keep doing that. But now he's gone so far, he's like, well, I can't get everyone to love me, so I'm just going to get everyone to hate me. And whoever joins me and chooses to follow me is going to follow me. That's where I think his head's at. And I think he's doing it knowingly, like absolutely knowingly. But the problem with it is because the problem with what he's doing fundamentally is that when he's talking about certain groups of people, there's potential repercussions if he riles up the wrong type of people in a population. If he gets the wrong type of people on his side and they're like, oh, well, we've got Kanye now, there could be some serious repercussions. And that's where I think he's doing the absolute wrong thing. If he wants to do it for himself and crush his own brand and, bankrupt himself or whatever, couldn't care less. That's his choice. But if his words are inspiring, if they potentially inspire hatred, that's where I think he's crossed a real big line.
Yeah, I mean, let's zoom this forward and use Trump as an analogy. We saw that Trump came out as a populist. He started to rile up the masses, but there was already populist thought. He just unlocked it because those thoughts were already there. But then what happened is that the next natural step here is that a population that was told to hate another population started to become more physical and vocal, i.e., you would see people getting attacked by people, and then the attackers would be like, yeah, Donald Trump, build the wall, get out. So you see the attack, and then you see them proudly claim clearly what was their inspiration. What we don't want to see moving forward is somebody from any of the populations that Kanye's isolated be attacked, be in any kind of situation, and then that person goes, yeah, Kanye, or Ye said, you know what I mean? So that's where this gets out of control. And I don't want to, of course, being Jewish is a big part of the identity of this story, right? But I don't want to get too focused on that because at the end of the day, like, as we've moved through this industry, Vic, we've met a lot of Jewish people in the media. Yeah. But the way I look at it, it's never been a red flag in my head because we come from a community where we were very, very noticeable. Like when you look at shopkeepers and wholesalers in the UK, or even like accountants and doctors or computer engineers, sometimes you go into a world where there just happens to be a lot of recognizable faces. Now, whether that's because of economic necessity, that's the industries we went into because we needed money, or because we have maybe a natural propensity for those kind of industries as a people. But then what happens? You go into that industry, and this happens with Indians. You ring people back home and say, there's a chance to have some social mobility here. Come and do it. So now all these software engineers go from India over to California, like Silicon Valley. So that momentum builds up with certain populations, and the Jewish population absolutely has built momentum and like majority mind share in the entertainment space. We met some high up folks recently in the last couple of years, Vic, that openly told us about you know, their role in the community. And it's pretty magnificent stories that we heard from these people. And it's kind of, I kind of feel like pointing at them or trying to isolate them or saying that they've got an agenda. That's not only is it, could it be, you know, factually incorrect, but it's also not going to be helpful if that agenda does exist, or if that population is quote unquote too powerful. Well, by default, someone like Kanye is not going to be able to do anything about it. Like, what happens if a cash and carry goes, there's too many Gujarati shop owners? It's not going to change anything.
No, and that what you're describing there is our natural propensity for like tribalism. You know, you're gonna support your people, and for years your people are your close community, which is typically born out of, you know, religion or your geographical location. So you're going to help the community, and typically those people look like you and act like you and have the same backgrounds as you. So that's all that is, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now we're in a bit more of a kind of diverse universe where your tribe is somewhat diverse as well, but ultimately they're just looking after their tribe. They're saying, look, come over, you know, you can do this, you can do that, you can help here, you can plug in here, you can succeed by doing this. And then unfortunately, and then back to your other point about using like Donald Trump as an example, they just become martyrs for the wrong reason. And I think that's what he's chasing. That's what I believe.
I would just add to that and say the thing about helping your own people is not because they are your own people.
Sure.
I think it's because in those people that you help that happen to look like you can also relate to their struggles. So for example, if you're talking about shopkeepers, and, you know, I know one really amazing guy who I met this summer in the UK, and he was telling me that he came from Punjab and his brothers had moved into an area, a very, very super white part of the UK, and they started opening fish and chip shops, and they collectively brought over cousins and put them close enough so that they could share stock, but far enough so that they wouldn't share customers. And I think the reason why they did that, of course, family, but more so because they recognized that we managed to get out of India with this solution. I'm offering this solution to you because you face the same challenges that I face. I think even with Gujaratis, and I'm sure it's the same with Jewish people, Italian people, Irish people, I've seen it, Jamaican people. The reason why they flick each other deals is not because of in-group favoritism necessarily. It's because they recognize that a solution for them could also be a solution for somebody else's specific circumstance. And that overlap is so high that they're like, yo, man, like, come over. And Vic, you just made a very good point. And Dubai is the best canvas for that point. Now it's not even about race anymore. Now we reach out to people in the UK, regardless of race. And we're like, look, man, if you're really going through it, you should probably come to Dubai. And that's got nothing to do with their religious beliefs or their race. We're just like, look, man, I felt what you felt when I was in the UK. You should probably come over here.
That I was, you know, it's funny. I was going to give that exact example. There's two really distinct examples that are like, you know, different based on the, like, race or culture or background. Is our parents moving from Kenya to the UK and then bringing everyone over, family, friends, giving them, you know, help, you know, to get through the process and get work and get money and all that. And then same in Dubai. I was going to give the exact same example, because how many times, Raj, you must get tons, I get a few of like calls from people saying, look, I'm thinking about Dubai, or I'm moving, or I've got a job, or this, that, and the other. And, you know, I want to kind of just get some idea of what it is. And we help, always help. And when they come here, you show them around, you take them around, you introduce them to people. They come to my friends, your friends. That's just our version of doing it. And it's nothing to do with like race, culture, background. It's just they're going through something. They want a better life for them, their partners, and their families. And we're people who are able to offer some help. It's a really good example.
What, so long-term impact?
I think that if he stops now or soon and goes into hiding, he might be able to come back from it. If he keeps going and going and going, he's not going to lose any sight in public. All that's going to happen, he's just going to continue to go the wrong way, because he's going to see the response that he's looking for, and he'll just go down that route. But if he hides, he's got a chance of coming back onto the other side, on the good side.
Yeah, I also, I think I tweeted about, or I posted about this on my IG stories at Raj Kotecha. If you're not following, I said that something about the Yeezys. I can't remember what the story was, but I was like, this Yeezy stuff is crazy heading into a recession. And people were like, no, people will always buy Yeezys. I was like, maybe they will, but there is something about a recession and tightening of the belt that we've not seen before with this next recession. And Yeezys is a great thing to have as a priority and being on some hype vibe. You know what I mean? If you've got a ton of money and you're sitting above the economy and it doesn't affect you. But what we're looking at right now is we're looking at elements of the housing crisis from the 2008 recession. We're looking at elements of the tech crisis. You look at a lot of growth stocks, and crypto for sure have all been damaged.
Yeah.
That happened in April 2000. I was active when that happened. Like, that directly affected me as a technology grad. And in 08, obviously, Vic, we saw that recession happen. Funnily enough, it worked out in our favor. It actually gave us an eclipse window where we could buy property. But now both of those have showed up for the party for this recession. Plus, you've got like lack of leadership. I think, and I've been saying it, heading into Q1, things are going to get pretty hairy for any economies that don't have a solid backstop. Middle East has a solid backstop with like, it's got a diverse enough economy and it's got tons of natural resources, but it's going to be tricky for the UK. And funnily enough, Vic, we were talking about this earlier on, right? Like, in the vacuum of Gary Vee's content that used to be a skew towards crypto and NFTs, then it went straight back to like content strategy. And now he's talking about the recession. And sometimes you can use him as a barometer, his content, for popular culture, because he's not only does he create culture, but he also reflects it. And so I think that a lot of these luxury brands, it's going to start getting real. One thing that Gary said is, like, if you've got 7 streaming sites and you're only using 2, you might want to get rid of, 5 of them.
Well, I think it depends on the luxury brand and who the audience is, right? So your LVMHs of the world probably won't get hit too bad.
True.
Because they target a different type of person who does sit above the economy. Your Yeezy buyer is looking for, this is a super generalist statement, so take it for what it is. But in general, they'll be looking for like some kind of clout as well. I've got the new Yeezys, I've got this, I've got that in the streets, amongst popular culture, amongst their peers. But it doesn't sit at the top end of luxury. It kind of sits in like the middle class of luxury. And that middle class gets hit in the economy as humans and as brands. And I think that's the way it's going to happen. So like, if you're in the UK, or if you're in Dubai or the Middle East, there's a brand called Lidl. Lidl is on the lower end of the shopping, like the supermarket side. Produce is good, but it's much cheaper. People start going towards the bottom or the very, very top, depending on where their means are. But that middle class gets hit. Middle class people get hit in the economy. I think the same will happen to brands. And I think Yeezy sits in the middle class of like the luxury. Then you add on Kanye's craziness, and I think they're in for a rocky ride. Plus, there's no more brand deals and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's where it is, I think.
Okay, well, we'll leave it at that. I think we've given it some perspective without dwelling too much on his specifics. It's a space that I think we've opened this kind of worms. We can watch it over the next couple of weeks and see how it plays out. Like, I feel with these moments in pop culture, I feel like while some of them might be uncomfortable and just downright not right, they are things that could warrant a case study being written about them from a sociological point of view in a few years. Speaking of brand deals in the culture, The Landlord is back. This happened about 2.5 hours ago. So luckily it showed up on my IG, and I'm so glad it did, because he is one of my favorite people to consume content from on Instagram. Holloman Giggs is now back on the scene, and you just couldn't have asked for a better return to Instagram from Giggs than one of his classic rants where the camera is kind of just below him and he's just giving it loads. And this guy has a particular voice, a particular way of speaking, highly intelligent, but quite scary as a dude, and makes some phenomenal points and doesn't hold back. So here's the backstory. And Alex, we need to link these up in the show notes as well. I know we don't get a chance, but now that we've got them all on Notion, we may as well. Giggs jumps on Instagram says that that he has a problem, broadly speaking, with brands trying to take advantage of the culture. And when we talk about the culture, obviously we mean rap, hip hop, streetwear, fashion, all of the things that come from that world. The example he gave is that he was out and about doing cameos, jumping on videos, and there was a young guy who said to him, that he's had a contribution from a liquor brand. And Giggs asked him, how much is that contribution? Obviously, these things are for videos and things of that nature. And he said £500, to which Giggs was appalled. And then he went out the next day, and that same brand was in another music video, and he was questioning, could it have been something as little as £500 again? So brand deals got him annoyed. It was a good rant. Did you check it out, Vic?
Yeah, I did.
What are your thoughts?
So Giggs is great. Like you said, he comes across really, really scary. And if you take away his brashness and his directness, he's so intelligent, the way he kind of breaks it apart. But I think the one big takeaway I took from that was everyone involved in a culture should know the value, excuse me, not of themselves, but of the culture at large. That I think was the point that he was trying to get across. He's like, yeah, my value, what I bring to the table, all of that. But he goes, these young'uns need to know the value that the culture brings to brands. And that is really important, I think, because it's very easy for anyone coming up in any kind of industry to go, oh, cool, I'll just take the 500. I'll just take this. I'll just take that. Quick check. But what they don't realize that they're doing is they're devaluing the culture's value and their own value at the same time. So if they can kind of map who they are within the culture, now, of course, Giggs can command way more than anyone coming into the scene.
Yeah.
But if that young cat coming into the scene can kind of just gauge what the culture's value is, and they can map upwards towards that, they'll get more value and they'll add to the value of the culture. That's the way I see it.
I also don't know if they'd have the tools, like language-wise, to even negotiate those kind of deals. I think what I'd like to see Giggs do is actually intervene and step in and broker these deals. Now, I've got a lot of mutual friends with Giggs. We've DM'd before. I know a lot of people that have worked with him on the music side and otherwise, and everybody says he's just one of the nicest dudes, like, in the game, like really, a real kind of like professional dude, gentleman, really nice guy. And so I think that's incredible. So we know he's not coming from like an erratic place. He's quite a thoughtful individual. And actually, Kish, my boy Kish, a few years ago, I went to London and we went to 2 gigs. One at the beginning of the summer, which was Giggs's first gig that he did that hadn't been shut down. This was after years and years of police shutting down his events before he could even hit the stage. I went to see him, incredible MC, brilliant performer, like, again, has a very positive energy, when he's performing his music. And then the gig that we went to at the close of it was with Ray and Ghost. And I've got a sense that the way that you solve this problem is you start bringing in these people. Now, I'm not saying that you can necessarily like unionize it, but what you can say is all of these younger artists could go to a gigs and the brand could coordinate directly with the gigs, who's now probably a very well-versed business person, and Giggs could get a collective budget, distribute it across the next 15 hot guys videos, and that number would probably be higher, definitely be higher than what the kids would get for themselves. So for them, it's a win. Giggs would be able to participate and police and make sure that the whole thing's done quite well. And we could see a serious leveling up in the industry. And I think that is going to become more important, because one thing that we saw in the last recession, and Sal and I were talking about this, is the last recession was in the peak blog era, if you remember, when the Canon 5D came out. And at that time, young dudes like Wale and Kendrick and Drake and all these guys were coming out. And I don't know about Drake necessarily, but a lot of people were getting their videos. Even Rick Ross was getting his videos made on a Canon 5D. And now, as we go into tougher times, the brands are going to struggle to connect with the culture. And up and coming guys from the streets are making their own videos anyway and doing it like on the strength. So it's a great time for them to use influencers and artists. And it could be a really good time to like level up those budgets as well. What a lot of people don't know is that I was one of the first people in the mid 2000s to actually start brokering brand deals. So when we had Love Soul, Vic, you remember, we used to get products from Rain. We used to get product from Newmark. We used to get products from Serato themselves.
Flip Cam.
Yeah. So I've been doing deals with brands directly since I was in my mid-20s, and the only platform I had to funnel them in at that time was Love Soul. There was really just me and Vic doing our thing. But you know, you've also got to look at what the brand equity is for you as well, because if it's just £500 cash, it's not going to be that valuable. Now, if that brand is a big brand and they're going to put a clip of your content with their, you know, with their product inside, and it's going to be a collab on their Instagram, so that they're kind of reverse endorsing you by saying this artist endorsed our product and we endorse this artist, then there are other ways of freaking those deals and making them a little bit more valuable to you, because then you're collecting those impressions. But I feel like it's one of those things that it's always been an area where classic artists that are too narrowly focused on what they do always miss out on what the existential upside is. And if you just widen the aperture and you do these deals in a much more sophisticated way, you can really benefit. Like if you look at our ecosystem today, when it comes to building brand whilst being an artist, I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. They rang me and they said, yo, could I jump on a set with you one day? And I said, bro, you don't want to jump on one of my sets, because my set is the Raj Kotecha show. We do these parties because we've got creative content agency. We've got My Friends, Your Friends. We've got all these brands and things that we're doing, the 4Ps. When we throw these parties, we want to give our community a good time. And that's going to be a Love Soul good time, which, by the way, the same two people in Love Soul are the same two people you're going to bump into in a meeting at CCA. So I said to him, you need to do your own parties and then call me and say, come and open for you. So you've got your people there that I wouldn't be able to have access to. I'm happy to come and do an opening set for somebody else. I'll bring my people along, so you're guaranteed that your party is going to be okay. And in no situation there is any money changing hands, because guess who's coming to the party? All of our clients, all of our friends, all of our supporters. We get to do something nice for them. We don't spend a single dollar on marketing costs, and you achieve the same, if not more. It's about building an ecosystem where if you can afford to give away or negotiate down the artist side of what you do, you can use that to propel pipeline for the business side of what you do. That's not the case for everybody, because you need both talents, but it's just a case about being smart when you work with brands or when you do activations.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, 100% agree. And I think the thing about gigs, kind of maybe brokering deals, or any artist of his stature in any industry really, but particularly ones that, you know, hip hop industry in the UK and in America, similar things have happened in the past. But I guess it really comes down to education, that teach a man how to fish type thing. So if we can kind of see people like gigs and anyone of his kind, any of his peer group going, all right, I'll broker some deals with you, but you come with me. I'll show you how it's done. I'll show you how we have these conversations. I show you how we think about the bigger picture. You might get a little bit less money here, but you'll make it up there. And then in the future, you don't have to ask for less money because all of these different things. Yeah, I guess it's just about education, really, isn't it?
Are you influenced by brands that you see in music videos, Alex?
I don't know. I'm not, first of all, a music video, I'm not a big fan. I don't like go and watch music videos that often, but I also don't feel like I've necessarily I don't feel like a brand in a music video has ever caught my attention that bad. That it really made me remember it, right now while we're speaking about it. Yeah. I don't know. That could just be me though.
Maybe that's for you because you're probably consuming more tech content, and you might see some tech accessories with a creator, like somebody who flies a drone might have a particular cleaning cloth or remote control or any cabling, wiring, interfacing bags for sure. But you're not necessarily going to see it in the hip hop world because that's not what's going to influence you.
Yeah, I know for sure. Yeah.
Nice. Well, speaking of gigs, let's jump over to his good friend. One of the reasons why, Gigs definitely saw a couple of bumps in his career, Drake. Big video going around on the internet at the moment about him losing 800K betting for Barcelona's victory against Real Madrid. But then there's another video online right now as well, where we see him winning 12 million of what doesn't look like real money. Who's read the story?
I didn't see the 12 million one, but I saw the 800,000 that he lost.
Yeah, what came up when you did the research on this one, Vic?
You know what? I'm finding it really difficult to kind of pin this down. So he obviously has a he's part of a company called Stake, which is a online Bitcoin casino, and I believe that's where he's won this subsequent $12 million. But here's the thing: I've Googled Drake winning $12 million online casino, or just a variety of different searches, and I'm getting stuff from like May, June, July of something similar. So I don't know if this thing is true or when it happened. I can't figure it out. Like literally, I've tried and I just can't figure it out. I don't know what the real facts are.
I know during the pandemic, he was making a lot of content with in and around like online gaming brands, if I remember correctly. The story behind this 800K, and this looks like it's real money, is that on Sunday there was a football game, the El Clasico between Real Madrid and Barcelona. And Barcelona are now sponsored by Spotify. And so just for that one game, Barcelona put the owl, the OVO owl, on the front of their shirt to represent for Drake. And Drake bet 800K and lost. I'm assuming they lost because Barcelona lost. I don't watch football, but that must be the case, right?
I mean, he didn't exactly lose 800K. He bet 800K on Barcelona and Real Madrid and another game. And we don't know how much was put specifically on the Real Madrid Barcelona game, but yeah, Barcelona lost. So whatever he put on that game, he lost.
But if they sell that shirt, he's making that back fivefold.
Yeah, like that's the point. No one really cares, right? Spotify at the start of this season became Barcelona's new sponsor. And like it's just been a huge deal. Spotify took over like their jersey logo. Like it's just a huge deal. But yeah. So I mean, yeah,
it's all good. Keep going.
They're gonna make it. He's gonna make his money back, right? At the end of the day, like it's not that big of an issue for him, I'd say.
I'd say not. Okay, so we're done on that. We didn't get much more info, or you got some on that, Vic?
No, so there is one video from like July, I think, this year, where I think he's with French Montana, and that's when he wins 12 million, and he gets really excited. But in his other video that we've seen, I don't know who he's with two of his guys, he's not that excited at all. So, I don't know if this other one is real. I think they might have just like mashed two together. He's wearing something different in one video. I don't think the 12 million thing is, the recent 12 million one is real. I think they've just like taken it, refixed it, and put it up because of this Barcelona bet.
Yeah, play money or virtual money or whatever it is. Anyway, not that big a story that we need to deep dive into it, but there is one, speaking of celebrity news, which I kind of like this story because you are who you are when no one's watching. You are who you are when you're drunk, and you are who you really are when you're under pressure. That's when the real you can really come out, for better or for worse. Looks like one of those moments happened for James Corden, the UK's #1 teddy bear export that's gone out there and gone out to the US. He went out to the US at a time where there was a real, not exodus of talent, but talent was really kind of like heading to the US. It was a time where Piers Morgan was heading out there. It was a time where, I mean, Ricky Gervais has been building momentum out there, but you constantly have like a leak in the UK talent pool heading towards the US. One of the people that jumped in on that was James Corden. He's got his own TV show at night. It looks like some sort of chat show. I don't really watch it, but I see clips online. Had a nice run during the pandemic because he managed to become the host of the Friends reunion, which was about as giddy as you can imagine he would make it. Turns out now, though, that he was in a New York restaurant. He was allegedly abusive. Everyone's got stuff that they've got to send back from time and time again. We've spoken about it with me. It's one of the few things that does annoy me, but I keep it inside. I try not to project it on the poor person who's being paid whatever they're being paid to serve us. But it looks like he got straight up banned, what they called 86'd. He got 86'd in this restaurant. Vic, you've worked in restaurants and you love this man. So what's your opinion? No, I'm joking. You don't love this man, but frame it.
So I enjoyed his stuff on Gavin and Stacey. I thought that was a brilliant show. That was a show that he came up on in the UK and what made him really famous. And then he started doing like panel shows and presenting, and I think that helped him kind of get to the Late Late Show. And the Late Late Show at the time when he went, as you quite rightly said, there's a lot of British exports, but I think all of the late shows, the Tonight Show, the Late Show, the Late Late Show, they were going through like the changing of the guard, and Jimmy Fallon was like top of the pile, but everyone else was kind of in flux. So he got in at a good time. In regards to this incident, I met him once. I was walking in Piccadilly Circus as like 2015, I think it was. He just got his deal. And I went up to him. He was one of his guys, said, "Hey, congratulations, good work, da da da," some, weird stuff. And he goes, "Oh, thank you very much." He was really polite, very nice. It's a 30-second cordial exchange. I don't like working in restaurants, and I'm the same as you, Raj. Being polite to everyone is extremely important to me. And working in restaurants, no one should have anyone be rude to them at all. So if he's been rude, and if this is all what's happened, and if he's been banned, good, let him be banned. There's not really much to say about this. It's just another celebrity. What did I say? Oh yeah, I said he's becoming like Ellen.
Oh yeah, he's becoming the new Ellen. Yeah,
he's becoming the new Ellen. But yeah, I'm not like too. This story is just a whatever story to me. I think since then he's come out and apologized. And
so what happened was he actually reached out to the restaurant 24 hours after one of these big kind of like moments where he was, obviously not a nice dude. And the guy, Keith McNally, posted a picture, a very grainy picture of James Corden, said, "James Corden just called me to apologize profusely, having effed up myself more than a few times, or more than most people. I believe strongly in second chances." He said, "Anybody who's magnanimous enough to apologize to a deadbeat layabout like me and my staff doesn't deserve to be banned from anywhere, especially Balthazar. So come back to the five and dime. Jimmy Corden, all is forgiven." I mean, it's one of those things. I think he handled it well. I think there's a lesson in humility there, because he obviously reached back out and he probably realized that for any reason, whether he was genuinely apologizing or whether he realized that in the world that we live in today, that a story like this could spiral out of control. And like you said, Vic, you were very quick to build the association between this story and a Ellen story from the last couple of years ago. So I think he did well to get ahead of it. I wonder now if it's just, I mean, it is in the sense that I believe it's a story we're talking about. Of course, it's not going to change the world, but it's one of those things where it's like, quite the opposite of the Kanye story, really. Much more of a trivial event and much easier to put a plaster over. Did this catch your radar, Alex?
I didn't hear about it until you sent it over, but I don't know. I think everybody makes a mistake, right? Yeah, like you said, it all depends on like how you handle it afterwards, right? And like from what it looks like, he did the right thing. So as long as it doesn't like happen and again and again, you can call it a mistake,
Well,
have you had one of your meltdowns yet, Alex?
Have I had in front of a waiter or anything like that?
Yeah.
No.
What would be interesting? What would be interesting to see? I think you're right. If he's made a mistake, he's apologized, and the guy's accepted. Cool. What would be interesting to see if other stories like this come out, because like these things happen when one tiny little scandal, then like other people come out of the woodwork, whether it's all real or not, who knows? But it'd be interesting. So then that kind of feeds into the Ellen thing, where like lots of people start talking about how horrible he is. And I'm not saying he is, I'm just saying if that was to be the case, then that would be interesting to see, because then you got a trend.
Yeah, it can spiral out of control. He did well to get ahead of it. Let's have a quick look here. In related news, James Corden stepping down as the host of the Late 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 Show, but that was in April this year. Guess that's already happened. Man, I was thinking this dude like quit the show because he wilded out at this restaurant. It looks like it's all in the wrong order. Cool. So that's that. I think we're gonna wrap it up now. We're gonna keep this one nice and punchy because we've got a lot of stuff to do before tomorrow. What's gonna happen? Actually, Vic, make a note of this. When we pull off these deals that we're working on right now, we'll be able to justify to people why we kept episodes like this one and maybe even the next one quite short, because we've got a lot going on. It's nice to share with you all the fun stuff that happens, being out and about in the clubs, having a good time. But there's a lot of stuff going on the work side as well, and we'll have some great announcements on that. Content recommendations.
So it's funny, on our group chat, I posted Creed 3 trailer.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming out. Well, it's just, the trailer's just been released, and Sal posted it like a few minutes before me on our group chat. But that's not coming out till March the 3rd. But if you watch the trailer, I think it could be one of the better ones yet. Have you seen the trailer? It looks
I've not
amazing.
seen any of the films, nor have I seen all the Rocky films. So
Oh, for
backstory,
real?
this, from what I understand, Apollo Creed was a nemesis of Rocky. Looks like he's probably had a kid who they could justify a 3-film theatrical release franchise around.
Exactly that, right?
Yeah,
So Apollo Creed was in the original Rockies. Sylvester Stallone as Rocky fought Apollo Creed, and then they became friends, and then he coached him, and there was like this kind of came full circle, and they became friends. Apollo Creed died, and then his son
Apollo Creed died of what?
in the movie, right?
Yeah, of what?
Dolph Lundgren killed him.
He killed him in.
Who's Apollo Creed? Was it Mr. T?
No, Mr. T's character was I can't remember Mr. T's character's name, but in number 4, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, Dolph Lundgren, who was the guy who was fighting Sylvester Stallone in the final fight, fought Apollo Creed and bust him up so bad that Apollo Creed then subsequently died in the film.
So Apollo Creed would have been a black guy as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know who the character is, but I'm just.
Of course you don't. Yeah.
It together.
So Michael B. Jordan plays Creed's son, Apollo Creed's son.
Yeah.
And he came back in Creed, and then now it's Creed 3. I think Michael B. Jordan's done an amazing job with this franchise, picking it up. And I think these ones are better than any of the Rockies except for number 1 and number 3 a little bit, because I like Mr. T. This one looks really good.
What's the trend here with, like, Karate Kid coming back as like this TV show, Cobra Kai, and this, and is there more instances of this? Like, where's the money?
Well, the money. Well, so
I know where the money is in these 2 franchises, but like, is this a trend? Like, are we going to see like has this happened to other 80s things? I know Top Gun just released Top Gun 2. Like, I'm trying to figure out where the trend is, so that if there's a chance to get some dough off it.
It happens all the time, and it even happens in TV shows. I think Dynasty came back and did a thing. Top Gun, as you said, Cobra Kai, and I've spoken to you about this before, Raj, and maybe to you, Alex. Cobra Kai is one of the best, like remakes, kind of from
revivals,
an 80s, like revival of a 80s franchise in a different form, in a series, not in a movie.
Yeah,
it is so good. It is really, really, really good. Now, there's obviously a lot of corniness in it because it's taken from a 80s karate franchise, but it's really good. So what's the trend? I mean, it always happens. It just keep, same thing with fashion. It kind of is cyclical. But I don't think it's going to happen on like the niche stuff. It's the big names that are going to be able to do the comebacks, because they're the things that are a draw. Karate Kid, Rocky, Top Gun, the things that were like cult classics. I don't think like maybe like a Goonies might be able to get remade. Maybe not a Back to the Future, but things like that could be like.
Well, why are these franchises being funded? Here's my question: on the lower end, age-wise, of franchises, you've got Frozen and all that. There's definitely been some incredible developments there, and that's working out pretty well. On the older end, i.e., our age and upwards, it's a lot of revival content. There's not as if there's a lot of new franchises that are particularly appealing. I think people did get hyped over Jason Bourne. Arguably, Mission Impossible's from another era. It's just managed to stay updated. It's not a revival. Fast and Furious. So what franchise right now is trying to talk to late teens, early 30s, like that 18 to 30 demo, to build a long-term franchise loyalty, aside from, of course, I guess like Avengers definitely did its thing, but Avengers again is a bit more lateral.
Do you remember when we had that big debate about Drake and
Yes,
going to movies and stuff?
Yeah.
So it kind of goes back to that there is no new franchise that can do that. I don't believe so. I don't believe there's a space for new franchises in the movie world, only in the TV world. So when you're thinking about what's talking to like the teenagers or that sort of age range, things like Stranger Things and things like that, fully talking to them. What was that thing? The Korean show that
Squid
Mr.
Game.
Beast did,
Squid Games, yeah,
etc., etc., etc. So those are the things that are hitting the younger generation. Where I think Creed has done well is there was so much time between Rocky and Creed, so much that it's almost new, completely new character as the lead. They've brought in Sylvester Stallone, of course, but it's a completely new character, and it's its own new story with only a little bit of baggage from the past. But also, Rocky specifically is still so like in line with culture. If you think about Eye of the Tiger, the music, running up the stairs in Philadelphia, it's still there's remnants of it in popular culture, albeit like boxing or sports or whatever it might be, but they're still there. Everyone, even young kids, know. My son, who's 9, knows Eye of the Tiger and the Rocky theme tune and all that.
Yeah,
but I think Rocky.
That's Rocky specifically.
Yeah, but I'm saying Rocky and its derivatives is very also close to the fundamental principles of America, right? Like rags to riches, fighting your way up, individualism. And so I think any franchise that started off close to those American dream principles will always have a long lifespan as long as America's principles remain where they are. And then that can be further accelerated by like an updated infatuation with martial arts and sports and fighting and contact sports. When we're in a world whereby there's been a lot of softening on the internet and a lot of softening in culture, sometimes there is a bit of an appetite for just two dudes punching the hell out of each other. Yeah. And people leveling up what level of masculinity is appropriate for them. There's obviously a conversation about masculinity dying, and on the other end there's toxic masculinity, and let's just call that a spectrum. But there is always going to be a home for that. And great point as well about Fast and Furious. Sometimes people just want to see people driving cars really fast, and occasionally those cars flip over.
Well, more as much as that. So you take like Marvel and DC on one end of the scale because it's superheroes. It can be fantastical. It can be like completely out of the norm, and no one really kind of goes, well, this wouldn't happen in real life, and they don't appreciate it because it's supposed to be like it's superheroes. And you take something like Fast and Furious, it's the most outlandish car chases, the most outlandish stunts, but depicted in a real way. Like this really could happen. Anyone could really do this, right? Yeah, exactly. but everyone knows it that you can't, but it's depicted like so seriously. I'm jumping off a building to catch my wife before she falls and kills herself on a car, whatever, right? So Fast and Furious is just this like removal from your normal life, but getting that adrenaline rush of like cars, because cars and sports and fighting and sits in that spectrum of masculinity.
Somewhat of a removal from normal life, unless you're driving down Al Kale, in which case that's your day. That's your day every day. Did you see the trailer, Alex?
Dude, I actually watched the first like 30 seconds, and I just felt like I don't know. I liked the Creeds 1 and 2, so I just felt like I didn't want all the information about it. It looked good. I was like, it's enough. I'll wait to watch the movie when it comes out.
What I would say is that if you've seen the trailer, and there's no like spoilers, but one of his boys comes out of prison and connects with him.
Yeah, exactly.
As soon as that moment happened, you immediately know what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. I saw that part and then just left. I was like, I don't want more detail about it, but I know where it's gonna go.
But it's one of those. It's a good little franchise, and it's a nice watch. And Michael B. Jordan, from this and Black Panther and a bunch of stuff that he's done, he's I think he's got huge potential to be like, Denzel level in the future. If he has a bit more behind him. Yeah, if he gets a bit more diversity in his roles, like a bit more serious and a bit more kind of drama and whatever, I think he's got huge potential. I mean, he's already massive and a huge star, so not taking away anything from that. But if he does a bit more diversity, he'll be on Denzel's level in 10, 15 years.
The thing is, Denzel had that partnership with Spike Lee, and there's a lot of people like, Pacino, Harvey Keitel, a lot of people collaborated with like the Scorseses of the world. I wonder who he's got to find his groove with to get those iconic roles, And also, I couldn't tell you who brought out the iconic roles for Jamie Foxx, but that does sometimes help. Speaking of Black Panther, coming up on the 11th of November, I believe, is the new movie Wakanda Forever, which is exciting, but more exciting on the same date is the guy that's been doing gangster shit for a long time. Been the soundtrack to Alex and I driving to Jebel Ali a few times a month. Nas, King's Disease 3, technically his fourth album in a sequence. King's Disease 1, phenomenal album. King's Disease 2, somehow even better. Magic, incredible album. And now here we are with King's Disease 3. Have you guys seen the artwork for that? Or
yes.
Right. Here's my thing. I know for a fact that Vic is not up on King's Disease 1, 2, or Magic. Is it something that you're going to listen to ahead of King's Disease 3 coming out?
Yes. I've listened to the albums. I've listened to all three of the albums. I've not listened to them like I used to listen to albums. I just don't, the headspace and the time to really get into the music.
Here's the ultimate hack, though. You just have to make a policy level decision to allow Ine to hear swearing so that you can now listen to the music in the car. That's it. That is the root cause analysis of what you need to do. You just need to be like, you know what? He's obviously out there like swearing with his school friends and whatever. How much worse could it be if the upside was that you get to listen to hip hop properly again?
That's a rock and a hard place. I'll have to mull that one over.
Is it not a net positive? Is it not a net positive though? Like his eventual like sliding into just the use of terrible language, which happens because if it doesn't happen as a result of you loosening the screws, it will eventually happen as a result of me and him hanging out.
Well, no, hold on. Let's put that into context just real quick. We're quite, you know how we are with him. We're quite, we're extremely open with him. We talk to him about lots and lots of different things and very adult type stuff, not like inappropriately, but we treat him like an adult. And swearing is one of those weird things where it's like, I don't swear in front of him and I've made it like a point, but more than that, I know he's exposed to it and I'm not bothered that he's exposed to it, but I don't want to like go too far down the road of exposing to him because then it'll just become vernacular for him. And at 9, 10, 11 years old, you can already hear sometimes it slips out when something happens. I don't want it to do that at school or in the wrong place. Just at this age, I don't want to kind of encourage that.
It's a good point. It's permission versus modeling, right?
Yeah,
you can give him permission, but you don't want to be his role model for it. You can accept that it happens, but if you give yourself permission to swear in front of him, then you create a modeling environment. And if he models himself on you, then you unlock a relationship with swearing that's very different than just the natural course of him developing a relationship with it, probably over the next, I'd say 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, maybe even less nowadays.
Less,
to be honest with you, maybe even less, man.
No, I'm talking about 10 to 15 years where he'll feel comfortable using it everywhere, like even at home, if ever.
Yeah.
I'd say under 10 years, just for at least from my experience. I don't know how it is with you, but my parents were also very open. My only difference was I had an older brother, so that already like I'm learning from him. But yeah, I don't think you should like push like this. It's like you shouldn't like every day on your way dropping him off to school like play songs with swear words. Like occasionally if there's a song there's a swear word, like it's fine, but you shouldn't like repetitively over and over again.
Yeah, that happens all the time. We go to Portugal and the radio.
Yeah.
There's no radio.
There we go. Yeah.
It's like listen to it on Spotify. So, there's no radio version. So, you kind of make your calls based on where you are and how it's, whatever the situation is. But like you quite rightly said, I don't want to kind of be, I don't want to be like the model like that he follows on the swearing side. I'd rather kind of let that take its natural course, because I know it will, and it already is. He's 9, he's exposed, he sees, he hears, he's got friends. It's going to happen. But in answer to your actual original question, I will listen to these albums again, because I feel like I think it's just necessary. It's necessary before King's Disease 3.
Yeah. Speaking of big hip hop moments, SoleDXB pre-sale totally sold out. I had a friend who texted me a day or two ago. Obviously, our last 5 days have been insane. So I managed to get round to it last night, and I went online to buy him a ticket, and they're totally sold out. One prediction about SoleDXB. Last week we spoke about who could potentially come. The names that we came up with were Lil Baby
and
Travis.
And Travis. I can see one of those, if not both. Both would be incredible, but I can see at least one of those being in the mix. And if they're not, they're not. But that was us thinking about the top headline end of what SoleDXB programs into its events. What we didn't talk about was the bottom end. On the bottom end, you've had artists like her and people like that coming out. I think there's potential that SoleDXB could get very, 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 very ahead of culture in the Middle East, at least. I think they could bring out LaRussell. That would be my prediction. LaRussell is arguably one of the single hottest internet crossover rappers. He has actual talent. He can spit. He's got a very unique voice. He's probably the single most refreshing artist I've heard pop up since Kendrick Lamar. And I think that that's one person we could see show up over here. So I want to throw that name in the mix. Maybe what we should do in advance of SoleDXB putting out their full roster is make predictions. By the way, I already know some of the people on the roster. The leaks started.
Flex.
Then I'll tell you guys when the recording's off. But the leaks have started to make it over, and actually, good names thrown around in there. Any other guesses whilst we're here?
Nah, that's it. Oh, Kanye, maybe.
Oh yeah, that'd be the best. That'd be so good. Speaking of nothing, I'm trying to segue and I've not got one. Listen, final recommendation. Want to give a shout out to our friend Anas Bukhash, who's just a good dude, great creative in this city, does interviews, has his own creative agency as well. And he's obviously supported my friends, your friends, so we want to support him. He has just released an interview on his show, AB Talks, with Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal, I know, was in and out, right, with some folks that we know last week, right, Vic?
Yeah.
So part of the NBA thing. So yeah, it looks like you made a trip over to Dubai and jumped on Anas's show. I haven't seen the show. I don't watch all of Anas's stuff because some of the people on there, on balance with all the content I've got to consume, some of those folks I don't know. So sometimes I'll take a punt. But then also Anas, ultimately in a 6-month window, will drop something for everybody. And I think the Shaq one's going to be particularly interesting. Not because we haven't seen Shaq interviews before. We've seen many of them. But I would be interested to see Anas's take on a Shaq interview. And I'd like to see Shaq's take on a Middle Eastern interview.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see. Shaq, I think Shaq is one of the best celebrities out there. He's brilliant. He's seamless. He's natural. He doesn't care. He's just like doing what he does. It seems like he's got a great heart. He's very funny, very smart from a business point of view because he's got some good people around him. So it'd be interesting. Did you see that he just posted? Do you remember a few weeks ago we said, "Oh, Shaq's going to be like the sports news anchor for Abu Dhabi," and he's just posted
Abu Dhabi events.
Abu Dhabi events, right, that's it. And he just posted saying that the UFC is coming in October. So he's now like really going in, and he's going to basically announce. It looks like he's going to announce all their events.
Yeah,
from like an announcement point of view rather than announcing.
Yeah. There's a lot of space there for for new media outlets here in the Middle East. Sorry, Alex, I cut you off.
Yeah, no, I was just saying right now there's the UFC happening in Abu Dhabi. That's pretty big.
Right now?
Yep. There's I'm sure there's a bunch of celebrities who are over there. Bunch of UFC fights that are happening in next 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah, one of my friends is a fighter, and I was talking to him last night, and he's injured, so he can't fight. But he did mention, it was a very, very quick conversation, but he was like, "Oh, I was supposed to be fighting this week," and I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "In Abu Dhabi." I was like, "I didn't realize the UFC was there. I just thought you had to go down there for a fight." So I guess he's there.
I mean, it's actually pretty interesting. They started UFC there over COVID when they started Fight Island. So
Right,
it's just it's a very cool concept, honestly. Do you know about it, or?
Yeah, it crossed my radar. Yeah, that they basically built a custom thing there.
Yeah,
they had all the right kind of like pandemic restrictions, so they're able to make it happen.
Yeah.
When I was living there, because we don't live far from where it is, or we didn't live far from there in Abu Dhabi, they closed off all the roads, and they did it properly. Like it was a full-on bubble. Only the people that could be in and out were in and out. You couldn't get near it if you weren't supposed to be there. So they did a great job. But yeah, UFC now is it's becoming synonymous with Abu Dhabi as much as like the F1, right? Almost.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, UFC, I think as a whole has taken made a bigger name for itself in the last 3 years than where it was before.
They have a lot of celebrities, right, coming out. A lot of characters and personalities.
Yeah, and I think their biggest thing was Fight Island that helped them grow, because that was one of the only sports that kept going during COVID. So I think a lot more people were more inclined, or in a way forced to watch it.
Yeah,
got it.
It's good that they kept going. I remember I told you guys I saw Conor McGregor at my gym.
Yeah,
last year.
Yes,
man, that dude, watching him stretch and work out made me work out 3 times harder. And that was just watching him just stretch. And I told you this story, right, about grappling or whatever these guys do. And they were in the octagon in my gym, and somebody had thrown him against the it's like a chicken fence, right? It's like wires.
It's a cage, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not a cage in the sense that metal bars. It's like
you know,
it's like that crossed chicken wire type thing. And somebody threw him against that, and he was trying to get out, and he couldn't get out. This guy had him up against it, so he just collapsed his body and just dragged his face all the way down the chicken wire, just so he could hit the ground and fundamentally change his position with this guy, because this guy had him sandwiched up against this thing, and he just thought, forget it, gravity, down I go, even if it means this whole thing has to rub on his face. And he went down, and then obviously managed to get out of it. But another interesting thing about Conor is that he rolls with 2 other Conor McGregors. There's 2 dudes in his camp that are basically his body doubles. And really? Not body doubles in the sense that they jump out of the limo first. They're also stripped down, athletic, probably, I don't know, training with him, or
I'm sure,
whatever the case may be. So yeah, he seemed, I mean, I didn't speak to him, didn't speak to anybody, but he seemed like a nice enough chap. So that's that. Wrapping up this week. Happy Diwali to anybody who's celebrating this weekend. I believe it's this weekend. I know that parties definitely start here in Dubai from Friday, and will be probably running through till maybe Tuesday, Wednesday next week. So shout out to everybody who's celebrating. Shout out to everybody back home as well that we will not get a chance to celebrate with. Anything else?
That's it. I think that's the wrap.
No, I have something to say. I forgot to say that at the start. I'm going to Rome.
Nice.
I booked my flight 3rd to the 7th of November.
What's happening in Rome?
Nothing. Quick solo travel. I was looking
just
at I was just looking at flights on where I could get within Europe and where I haven't been that were well priced and stuff, and Rome came up.
So listen, Rome, you might be able to get there cheap.
Yeah,
Rome
I know.
Is not well priced.
I know that, but I think I'll manage. I'm staying in a hostel.
No, I'm sure you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But just be aware.
Yeah,
that if
just
you went
to
to
know.
buy a bottle of Coke, it won't be the same as it is in
No,
Amsterdam.
no, of course. I know.
It's pretty mad there because of all the tourism.
I'm kind of surprised. Amsterdam's pretty expensive. Higher than I expected it to be, but my friends have also said everything's gone up in price, by a really good amount, at least from what they've noticed. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that'd be awesome.
It. Is that gonna overlap with our recording schedule? Are you gonna take your microphone with you, or are you gonna do a Vic?
Yeah, I'll take your bag. No, I'm not even. I'm not even taking. I'm just bringing a duffel bag and a backpack with me. No suitcase, nothing.
Nice. One thing we do gotta gotta do, I guess, is shout out our editorial team. So
Yeah.
shout out to Arjun, Bal, Jessel, Kishan, Kyron, Neil, and Sal for giving us some incredible stories to share on the show today. If you want to suggest a story, hit us up. Best way to do it is just drop us a Instagram message, Raj Kotecha, RajKotecha, all tagged up in the show notes. Vic, yours is?
Vik Majaria, VIK MORJARIA.
Alex?
Alex Christoph, ALEXCHRISTOPHE.
You should change it to Alex is Christoph.
Alex is Christoph.
Like Alex
but I'm not Christoph. I'm Alex.
Yeah,
so Christoph is Alex.
Alex Christoph is pissed off. When I say your name, it always comes with that second part to it.
Or Alexis.
Alexis.
Yeah, that's what it'll be.
We'll figure out what he changes it to. Probably nothing by next week.
Probably nothing. Yeah.
But if you enjoyed this week's show, drop us a message. We'd appreciate it. We always love to hear. What's incredible is that, Alex, I've not even told you this, but we've gone into some business meetings. And although this podcast doesn't have the most amount of listeners, the handfuls of people that listen to it are doing some cool stuff out there. And it's amazing to walk into rooms and hear all that as well. So yeah, it's not about the spins, but we're very grateful for the high quality audience that we've got. If you enjoyed this podcast, give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcast. 5 stars on Spotify would be incredible. Likes, comments would be the best. Subscriptions on YouTube. And more than anything, if you can, flick through your phone, find somebody who's smart, send them a copy of this podcast wherever you listen to it. And we will speak to you on next week's episode. Peace.